All right, time for an experiment. Okay, hello everybody and welcome. My name is John, and in this video, I'm gonna take all these pink princesses and put them together into this pot and put them on a new pole. And the whole point for all of this is to test out how these aroids are gonna do in a self-watering pot setup. Yeah, I got some of these self-watering pots from Target, and they're quite nice looking and they're very inexpensive. So this huge 12-inch pot is $8, and so yeah, just letting y'all know. But I've been using these with different plants recently, and I've been watering from below using different types of gritty mix, and that has been working really well. But for gritty mix, it's kind of hard to find the ingredients sometimes. You gotta do a lot of sifting, or you're just paying a lot to get that pre-mixed gritty mix. And it's also very heavy. So I'm wanting to put some things into these 12-inch pots. They also sell 16-inch, which I'd like to move some of my larger plants into next year if possible. But I'm not gonna do gritty mix for that. It's gonna be way too tedious and expensive, and it'll be very heavy, especially to have a 12 or 16-inch pot full of that. So I want to test out a standard aroid mix in this type of setup. So I'm going to put these all in here together. I've got this 6-foot pole that I just made earlier, which I hope will stand up with this amount of soil. I think it'll be okay. But I want to, this is going to be my new mother plant. So I want it to have lots of room to grow, and so hopefully we'll get some really large, colorful leaves. So the plan is to put these in here. I'm going to water it really well, let it drain. Then I'm gonna fill the reservoir and just see how it goes. And then once the reservoir is dry and I see the top layer of soil is dry, then I'll just fill the reservoir again and we'll see what happens. Okay, so just wanna punch in and let you know it's been 6 weeks since I started this whole experiment. It's all going well. I've got lots of new growth to show you. So I'm gonna let this video play out, and then at the end, I will show you the progress, give you an update, and give you my final thoughts on whether or not this was actually a good idea. Now, I read a scholarly article earlier from some university that was testing different potting mixes with a sub-irrigation format, so watering from below in greenhouse production. And they had found that potting mix that had two-thirds, 66% peat moss did better than one that had only 33% peat moss when watered from below, because it was able to wick more moisture. Now, of course, in a greenhouse setting, the light is perfect, the warmth is perfect, humidity is perfect. Those plants need a lot of moisture. As far as plant growth goes, a commercial greenhouse is making those plants run a marathon every single day. So they're gonna use a much wetter soil than any of us are gonna use in our homes, especially if your plant is like 10 or 15 feet away from a window. So I'm using a much less water retentive soil, but it's one that these have already been growing in. And in my humidity bin, I've honestly just been keeping this moist. I haven't been letting it dry out as much as I would a normal aroid that's just getting natural light. Because these grow super fast in there. So I don't know if this is the right mix, but we're gonna test it out and see how it goes. Now, what I want you to know about this pot design, there's this little X here, and it only extends down like 3/4 of an inch or so. So as you can see, it's not gonna go all the way to the bottom of the reservoir. So with this design, you're gonna have to add a wick in there. I believe this is a cotton wick. Supposedly like a microfiber or poly. I saw some other term people were using. Supposedly that lasts a lot longer, so don't buy the cotton ones, but this is gonna work just fine. Luckily, this pot, it already has 4 holes for these wicks, so I'm gonna cut them, get them in there, and I'll probably put them up like 2 inches or so from the bottom, and we'll see how that goes. Now, my concern is using this organic aroid type of mix is that possibly the bottom layer will just stay too wet compared to the top. I don't know if it will wick up all the time. And then over time, as this mix starts to break down, the bottom layer is almost certainly gonna hold a lot more water and get kind of sludgy down there. But it's easy for me to make this mix and I can mix it again. And if I start having any issues with this sub-irrigation format, I can just water from above normally. This potting mix already works well. I don't have to do it this way, but if I can get that to work, I'd rather do that. So I'm gonna cut a couple of wicks here. So I'm just gonna feed this up through here. And, oh, this is nice and easy. Oh, on the smaller pots I used, these holes were a little tighter. It wasn't as easy to do. So I'm gonna have it up like that or so. That appears to be a decent length. Okay, so I have the wicks in here, and I've been crisscrossing mine because I feel like that will just get a little more moisture up here. And as you can see, there's gonna be enough sinking down below to go into this reservoir. So I'm just gonna attach this now. Okay, so one thing about these pots, it's pretty hard. It's actually quite difficult to get this saucer on and off, but it doesn't matter because you don't ever have to take it off. You can water from above and then just pour it out right here. And then you're gonna take your watering can and fill up from this hole there. So there's no need to take this on and off between waterings. Okay, so here's this potting mix. So it's equal parts bark, cocoa coir, pumice, and then lignopede. And lignopede is actually just triple ground redwood, which is nice and airy, but it holds a lot of moisture as well, and it doesn't break down for a long time, supposedly. So I'm gonna hold these strings up a couple inches and just get this base layer in. So I did also mix Osmocote straight into this soil here, which I don't normally do, but because I will not be watering from above, I think it'd be better to have it a little more distributed throughout the pot. Oh my God, this microphone is so annoying. Can you hear that? Every time I lean forward, it flips up like that. Okay, so we gotta get all these beauties out of here. Now the other reason I'm doing this is because these have been in my humidity bin for so long and I'm over it. I have like other projects I wanna do and I have no space. So I need to get these things out of here. Come on. Oh my God, my finger's too fat. Look at those roots. Yeah. It's so funny how the pink princess roots like are pink. At least the fresh ones. Wow. No, you fucking wind. Get out of here. Yo, this is badass. All right, well, check that out. That looks pretty dang cool. This pole is outrageously tall. Yeah, I wouldn't buy the 6-foot ones anymore. I tried to go buy some 4-foot ones earlier and everyone was out, so this is just what it's gonna be, but imagine how big these leaves will be by the time it gets way up there. So actually it's gonna be cool, it's harder to deal with. 4 or 5 foot would be better. Okay, time to go water this thing with the hose and let's see what's up. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. I'm really glad I did this experiment because it has shown me that actually you can grow aroids in a self-watering planter using sub-irrigation, just with like a normal aroid style potting mix. Now this is still a relatively short-term experiment, so I don't know about the long-term health of my plants in this setup. I am still a little concerned about what's going on in those bottom layers of soil, which are staying constantly wet. But after I first set this up, I waited until the top, until the top inch or so was like fairly dry, about how you would normally care for any of your aroids or for a lot of houseplants, really. Then I added water just to the saucer down below, and a couple days later, those upper layers were moist again. So that proves to me that this mixture actually is wicking that moisture up. So there's not just a layer of water sitting at the bottom. That water is actually being distributed throughout the pot. There's 5 plants in this pot and all of them are showing new growth. So I'm very hopeful that this is gonna be a good long-term solution, but we'll see what happens because the roots that do grow down into the bottom layers and eventually into the reservoir itself, they're gonna have to adapt to that. And the conditions down there will probably be quite different than at the upper layers. So we'll see what sort of happens, 6 months from now. There's also a couple other factors that are contributing to why this plant is doing well, in my opinion. And because these have been raised in this humidity bin for a long time, they were growing very quickly. They had very healthy root systems. So they were able to handle and really appreciate being repotted into this larger pot. So when you have a plant that's growing well and like it's really asking for a bigger pot, you give it that new fresh soil, a big pot, fresh mix, it's gonna take off. A fast growing plant can handle more moisture in the soil. And the other thing is that I have this plant next to my southeast facing window, plus I have these LED lights overhead that I'm using all the time. So the point is that the growing conditions here are good. And so under those conditions, this plant does appear to be thriving in a constantly wet mix that I'm watering from below. So if you have a plant that's somewhere, further from a window in a cold, darker corner, I would be very hesitant to try something like this ever in a situation like that. Definitely I'll have to give you an update, 3, 4, 5, 6 months from now to let you know how this is going. But I would say so far, this is an excellent way to care for a plant, even an aroid, which supposedly needs a chunky mixture all the time. If you're giving it a lot of light, some prime conditions, it does appear to be working very well for this one pot that I've tested it on so far. Okay, so that is the experiment. I would encourage you to do your own. It's possible that there are way better mixtures to use for this type of setup. Like I said, I read in that study, they were using much wetter mixtures actually, just like 2 parts peat moss, 1 part pumice, something like that. So mostly like a very wet, wicking, retentive mixture. So please do your own experiments, but I hope this helps you and gets you at least interested in this, because I know that for me, I was deathly afraid of keeping things really constantly moist for a long, long time. And over these past few years with plants, I'm getting more and more comfortable with the fact that they actually do oftentimes want a little more constant access to moisture, as long as they're getting enough light and warmth and all of that. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and please consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons before you go, and drop me a comment, let me know what you think. I'd love to connect with more of you. And as always, I wish you all the best with your plants and with your life, and I hope to see you back here for another video real soon. Peace.